Hey, yo, what's good, y'all? It's Stinger, and today I'm going to be showing each and every one of you how you can make some chaotic and over-the-top Supertrap beats in the style of Sheck West. Now, I know I've been doing a lot of Supertrap tutorials recently, but I have really been enjoying making the genre. And this is by far one of my most unique and experimental Supertrap type beats, so I'm super excited to break it down. But to set aside all that rambling, this is the beat that we're going to be going over. So there is a lot at play with this beat. Usually my beats will be confined within like 10 or 12 tracks, but this one spans 17 tracks including the melody and the drums. And that's not even counting automation clips or separate audio files. So with that being said, this tutorial is going to be a bit long. I'll do my best to move things along very quickly in the hopes that it won't be that long. But at the same time, each and every one of these aspects in the beats has something nice to learn from. So with that being said, let's break down the melody. The first thing that I threw down was this custom synth that I made in Serum. On oscillator 1, I threw on the sub you saw, put the unison to 4, and put the quantize just above 50%. And on oscillator B, I threw down a simple sine wave, put the unison to 12, and quantized it as well to about 25%. Aside from that, I have a low pass filter with some resonance, and it's tied to this LFO on envelope mode, meaning every time I hit a key, the LFO will activate. As for effects, I just have on some basic tube distortion. Now that we've gone over the sound design, let's go over the actual melody. For these kind of dark beats, I love using the minor harmonic scale, and that's the scale that I use to build this melody. Now, I've been really into minor harmonic arpeggiation recently, and that's exactly what I made use of in this melody. I start the melody off with a very basic upward ascending arpeggio, and I'm making use of the root notes, as well as the 6 and 5 half-step interval in the scale. So this is what that first part sounds like. From there, I just copied it over and made one minor alteration, and that is that I added the 6th yet again to make use of those half-step intervals. From there, I took a portion of our melody and put it up by 1 octave. Doing this just easily creates a little bit more variation in the melody and can really bring up the energy of a track if executed right. And then after that, all I did was I copied over those 4 bars into the next 4 bars. So this is what our first melody sounds like. The next thing that I threw down is a very simple lead that I made in Serum yet again. On oscillator A, I just have a basic sine wave, and I have the quantize of that linked to this super erratic LFO. And I accidentally just messed with oscillator B, but I just have it on a basic sawtooth wave, and I just cranked up the unison. As for the effects, I have downsample distortion as well as a basic reverb. And for this lead, we are playing around with 2 main concepts from our original melody. Firstly, we are making use of those half-step intervals being the 5 and 6 in the melody. And secondly, we are making use of octave inversions. And for this lead, I also overlap the notes to give them a bit of glide. So this is what the lead sounds like. The next thing that I threw down is a piano from Addictive Keys, just playing the root notes. Now let me play this for you and you tell me if this sounds like a piano. While at its root, you can kind of tell that it's a piano. In the mix, it just doesn't sound like that at all. And that is because of these 2 effects that I threw down. First is Phase Mistress on the classic 7 machine preset. This is what gives it that arpeggiated, like bubbly, filtered sound. And the second thing that I threw down is Portal. And I used the Gated Crystals preset from my Dimensions Portal bank. If you want to check that out, it's in the link in the description, and it includes 20 presets for Portal. Now, this melody so far is just kind of sounding like an amalgamation of sound. There's not a whole lot of rhythm to it, which is why I introduced this next sound, being this HS Classic Layers from Hive. I have it playing a 4 on the floor rhythmic pattern on the bass note, and yet again, I am alternating between the 6 and the 5 in the scale. As for the effects on that, I have Shaperbox 2 on the Space Robo preset. That gives it that bit crushing as well as this filter automation. So without it, this is what it sounds like. And with it, this is what it sounds like. Really just gives it that really weird alien sound that we're going for with Supertrap. Now, this next melodic component kind of tackles the same issue as the last one. Our melody is still just sounding like a big, stagnant strip of sound. And one way to combat that is to introduce sounds with really heavy and sharp transients, which is why I threw down this sine pluck from Xenology. And it's just playing the exact same pattern as our original melody. And the final sound that I threw down is this 20 sounds patch from Analog Lab. Now I make use of a technique that I use a lot in my Naruto Wick type beats with this melody. What I did is I took our original melody, selected it all, and then hit Alt-Y. That flips the entire melody horizontally, which is important for our next step. After that, I will render out the entire melody and cut the remainder. And then from there, I'll reverse the melody. You may think it's a bit counterintuitive to reverse the MIDI and then reverse the melody, so it's just back to its original form. But because you're reversing the reversed MIDI, it gives a nice little like reverse tail end to every single note in the melody. Kind of hard to explain, but it does give a different sound. And after it's all rendered and reversed, this is what it sounds like. As you can see, it still kind of maintains those like reverse qualities in the melody. As for the effects, I just have a bit crush at 15 samples and at 46% in the mix, as well as gross beat on the basic 10 preset, but I pushed it all the way to the right. And that's what gives it that tape stop sound. So with everything together, this is what our melody sounds like. Now there's one final alteration that I made to the melody. When I mix my melodies, I route them all to one bus just to make it easy. And on that bus, I threw down Shaperbox on the Cool Beat 2 preset. This is basically just a time-changing preset, and I threw it down to introduce some variation in the melody and make the beat sound a lot more chaotic. So this is what the melody sounds like with that Shaperbox preset. So now that we've covered the melody, let's go over the drums. The first thing that you're gonna need are 808s. And I like to use anywhere from 2 to 4 different 808s in Supertrap beats. This allows us to get super experimental and makes the beat a whole lot more chaotic with all of these sounds just being thrown at the listener. And when you're grabbing multiple 808s, you wanna make sure that they all sound distinctly different. This is because you want them to stand out in the mix and you want the listener to actually notice that there's different 808s. So the first one that I grabbed is this super short plucky 808. The second one that I grabbed is this super long and subby 808. The third one that I grabbed is super punchy and has a lot of high-end presence. And the fourth one that I grabbed has a lot of stereo presence and is very unique. Our main 808 for this beat is that super short plucky 808, and I have it playing a pretty complex and erratic pattern. In this pattern, I played around with 3 things. The first thing that I played around with is octave notes, not just going up, but also going down. The second thing that I played around with is velocity in the 808s. And the third thing that I play around with is rolls. These are all some great techniques that you can incorporate in your 808s to make them a little bit more chaotic for these kind of beats. So with that being said, this is what this 808 pattern sounds like. The second 808 that I threw down is that super long and subby 808, and I have this one just playing a very basic pattern. Next, I threw down that really unique 808 playing a very similar pattern to the last one. And then lastly, I threw down that super punchy 808, and this one is yet again playing around with those octave notes. And to help with the punchiness and the impact of the beat, I threw down this kick that ties along with that super long subby 808. So this is what all the 808s and kicks sound like together. As you can tell, we already have a great and unique basis for our drums. The rest of the drums from this beat are actually hailing from one drum kit in particular, and that is the J Cactus Divine Bundle. I want to preface this by saying that this is not sponsored by J Cactus at all, but he was kind enough to send me the kit and let me work on a few of the sounds, and I absolutely love it. As you can see here, it comes with a bunch of different things. It's not just a drum kit. It comes with vocal phrases, hi-hat midis, an analog lab bank, a drum kit, a piano MIDI kit, percussion kit, one-shot kit, 808 MIDI kit, drill loops, and violin phrases. Like, it's literally everything that you need to make drill beats. And not only drill beats, as I'm incorporating all of the sounds into Supertrap as well. So yeah, I heavily recommend checking out that kit, but now that I'm done praising it, let's just get into the drums. I'm gonna move pretty quickly through the drum sounds that don't really need any explaining. So the first thing that I threw down was this clap. The next thing that I threw down was this rim to create a little bit of bounce. And after that is where things start to get fun. The next thing that I threw down was this drill perk playing a pattern that spans like 5 different octaves. I have this more acting as a percussional, like rhythmic ambience of sorts because it sits kind of low in the mix. And I just have it following the basic rhythm of the beat. For the effects, yet again, I used Portal with my Dimensions Portal Bank, and I have it on this preset right here. I also threw down Pancake, which pans the sound left to right, and then some Fresh Air and an EQ. After that, I have this hi-hat playing a pattern from my Quasar MIDI kit. Not gonna touch on that. I've already touched upon a couple of kits in this video, and I don't want it to turn into an advertisement. But the only thing you need to know is that this hi-hat pattern has a lot of rolls and rolls that vary in pitch, as well as some lower octave notes. Now you may notice that the hi-hat has a really like low guttural like gargling sound almost, and the reason for that is yet again Portal, and yet again it's coming from my Dimensions Portal Bank on the Zipper on the Drums preset. It's doing little things like this that just add that super like weird and alien texture and atmosphere to your beats, so don't overlook the little things. And now the final thing that I threw down is this open hat, and for this open hat I squared off the envelope, which means that when I hit the note and release it, it immediately cuts the sound. This allows us to build some tension with our open hats and allows us to get some really cool and unique sounds from rolls. So this is what the open hat pattern sounds like. So with everything all together, this is what the drums sound like. Tell there is a whole lot going on and there is not a lot of space in the beat at all, but that's kind of exactly what we want to go for these kind of beats. The thing that I love about Supertrap is that the producers don't really have to hold back. In pretty much every other genre, you have to make room in the beat for the artist, but Supertrap doesn't really have that disparity. It allows the producers to go all out and just create something absolutely chaotic and out of this world. But that is going to pretty much cover how to make some absolutely bonkers Supertrap beats for Sheck Wes. Hopefully you enjoyed the tutorial and learned something new. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments and I will do my best to answer. Also consider checking out my Patreon where I post the FLPs to all of my beats in all of my videos, including this one. So if you wanted to study the arrangement, the mixing, the melody, all that kind of stuff, it's right at your fingertips. And finally, consider subscribing as I post 1 tutorial a week and 2 sound kits a month. Other than that, that's going to be it. Peace.